Hello, this is Chala Dincoy, CEO and founder of The Repositioning Expert. Welcome to another edition of my podcast, the Naked Marketing Podcast, where we get naked and vulnerable about our marketing mistakes. And who better to do that than our guest today, Dr. Chloe Carmichael. Welcome.
Thanks, Chala. It's great to be with you.
It's going to be interesting to ask a psychologist to get, honest and naked and vulnerable. How do you feel about that?
Well, as a psychologist, vulnerability is kind of a big part of what we do. So I've really been actually looking forward to the conversation.
Ooh, me too. Awesome. Okay, so why don't you tell us what you do and who you help?
Sure. So I'm a clinical psychologist, which means I have a PhD in clinical psychology. My area of specialization is with what's called high functioning people. And I'm also an author. So as you see, I have my new book on screen, Nervous Energy, Harness the Power of Your Anxiety, recently endorsed by Deepak Chopra, happy to say. And so I've also been doing some, master classes around some of those topics I like with high functioning people, like how to turn your anxiety into a superpower, that kind of thing. And also some marketing classes for therapists, since we therapists can sometimes be a little shy about marketing.
We're going to talk about that. So, is the majority of your marketing directed towards other businesses like the therapist, or is the majority for just regular people?
It's been kind of a moving target, Chala. So when I first opened my office like 10 years ago, the majority of my marketing was around how to get clients for myself as well as for the therapists that work for me in my office. And then as I grew, I started marketing as well, some of my online programs for, just regular consumers about my classes on how to deal with anxiety, like pre-recorded programs. And then of course my, programs for other therapists that want to build their practice. And then now, of course, I'm also marketing my books, Nervous Energy, Harness the Power of Your Anxiety, as well as my other book, which is Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating, which is kind of about marketing yourself in the dating
Oh
world.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I love all that. My God, you've got a lot of, you're very busy. You've got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. Now, from a marketing standpoint, do you have to, typically what I teach is you niche and you target one industry at a time or one group at a time. And then, you get in front of them consistently and talk about their pain so that you can become an expert in that pain. Are you finding, since you have two diverse groups that you're talking to, that you have had to build two different messaging and two different marketing funnels?
There's actually so much overlap in my circles, right? So it's not like I have, say, like a donut company and a car company. You know what I mean? So my general area of specialty, again, is with high functioning people. And so having therapy, master classes, fulfillment classes around anxiety and goal attainment, and, adding in some relationship stuff with that has actually been certainly an area of focus enough. And then my book being all about high functioning people. And what I found is that it happened almost naturally. A lot of therapists started following me and reaching out to me and asking me for advice on like how I built my business. And so I started making programs just showing them what I was doing. And then what's also been interesting is that therapists have been some of the biggest buyers of my products for consumers. Like my book, whether it be my book about dating or my book about anxiety, therapists are oftentimes the one who are buying those and using those and taking my master classes and then sharing those, strategies with their clients. So it's been actually a lot of overlapping circles that have more enriched each other than have competed against each other.
Wow. So I have to ask, how did you get into writing a book about dating?
It's funny. I was doing a TV spot for Fox in New York, and they wanted a psychologist to come on the air and talk about what they were calling dating season. It's actually in September. They say dating season comes alive in New York because everyone comes back from August. Yeah. And so just because I wanted to be organized on the air, I put together like my top 10 tips. And the host was like, oh my gosh, Chloe, these tips are all really great. You could just easily put these into a book, top 10 tips, Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating. And then because, again, what I do is my work is specializing with high functioning people. I found it was kind of a natural extension for them that they all want to get like a really good high functioning partner, but then it's like the one area of their life that they couldn't naturally control. And so I just kind of naturally developed a fair amount of my practice whose personal goals included really finding the right partner. So it's kind of a natural thing that just happened organically.
Oh my God, I love it. Wow. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it's too scattered for me, right? But like, because I'm all about the niche and the focus, but yours, what's beautiful is it's self, organic, self-fulfilling, self-developing. And that's awesome. That is really awesome. So what do you teach in the marketing segment of how to grow your business? I'm dying to find this out.
Sure. So I talk about like how to get clients, right? Because that's one of the things that every therapist would always pull me aside and say, like, how do you get clients? And then there's also it's a video course. So there's also modules about like how to find a good receptionist, how to get good SEO on your website, just kind of all the things really that any small business person needs to know. But mine is just really packaged really specifically for people who are in the healthcare coaching, mental health type space.
Well, we are a marketing show, so we are dying to find out, how do you get new clients?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, as we all know, it kind of starts to fulfill itself once make clients happy and then they start referring them to their friends and all of that kind of stuff. But like, I mean, a few tips, that I share in that series are so many different types of things. But one of the things that I find at least therapists are usually surprised that I suggest is to have a party, right? So if have an office space, which most therapists do, and maybe you have access to like a conference room or whatever, you invite everybody that you know. And of course, you should also join your local chamber of commerce as well, and get out there and network and start passing out your business cards and keeping their business cards too, of course. And then when I reply to people that I met at a networking event, I always put great to meet you at place in the subject line. And then when I have a few extra minutes, I can Google my Gmail for the phrase great to meet you. And then it will automatically pull up a list of some people that I want to follow up with. And then I use paperless post so that I can just easily have parties. And then I have a photographer come to the party and take great pictures of everybody and superimpose my logo on the pictures, right? So having a monthly newsletter, I always tell them as well, like your newsletter doesn't even have to truly say that much. It's just about staying on their radar. Like I've had an accountant that would send me his newsletter once a month for 2 years. I never opened it. And then one day I needed an accountant. And of course, I knew exactly where to go in my Gmail to find one. So, I mean, I could go on all day about how to get yourself out there because as a psychologist, for me, it was just about realizing, hey, this is just about relationships. This is just about people. And how do I just start building that relationship? Not even to get them to be my client, but just to be known as a psychologist. And then either they'll come to me when they need something or they'll refer somebody else when they need something.
Absolutely. So this brings us to the naked marketing question of, what was your biggest marketing mistake when you were starting?
Yeah, so I think when I first started, it was actually very hard for me to put myself out there. As a psychologist in training, we're given the clients. We just sit in a nice little cozy therapy room, and the professor, puts someone in there with you, and then your work is to learn how to do good therapy with that person, but you never learn how to get the clients. And I would go to even networking events, and I would just sit there, kind of standing there like a wallflower, because I had it in my mind that it's intrusive to just walk up to people and burst in on them. And it was actually very helpful to me when somebody explained to me that at a networking event, it's actually good manners to walk up and introduce yourself. That even though you would never do that at a grocery store
Right.
or restaurant, you don't just walk up to people usually and just introduce yourself, but that at a networking event, it's actually good manners to do that. And I like to have good manners. So that was kind of just the permission I needed. And once I started putting myself out there, and like I said, having that little system of great to meet you, so I would know, who to follow up with, and then building that newsletter system, and then just started having like a spring party or a holiday party or whatever, like an open house for my practice, essentially is what it really was. Putting myself out there started to feel very natural very quickly.
That is so cool. The difference between what you're doing and what I teach is that we have parties for very focused industries or interest groups. So if it's B2C, so we go after, let's say, if it's foodies, or if it's yoga moms, or, you know, divorcing women, or if it's B2B, then we go after like healthcare or IT or some, you know, industry, that because people only self-congregate in large numbers in the same interest via either their interest group or the industry. So that's the only difference. And it's fabulous that you figured this out all on your own. I had to work 18 years for Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay to figure this out. And you've all figured this out just by osmosis and just by looking at what other people were doing, I imagine, right?
Well, Chala, that's interesting. There's so many layers to that, so I would just say as well, though, that I do agree with you in the sense of a niche. It's just that for me, as a psychologist that works around topics of goal attainment, whether that be in your personal or professional life, my niche is high functioning people. So if I'm having a party and it's full of doctors and lawyers and marketing people and publishers and fashion people and Broadway people, that's okay, because what they all have in common is that they're live wires and they're interested in how to find fulfillment, how to move themselves forward in their goals. So I do agree with you about the idea of having a target. As far as like how I personally like got there, as you said, somewhat by osmosis. I mean, all of this did happen in New York City, which is kind of its own everyday walking classroom. But I will share that my husband has an MBA from Harvard. And so that helped.
There
We
you
were
go.
we were just dating at the time, but he was the person who told me that it was good manners to introduce yourself to people at a networking event. And that really was like a game changer for me.
Well, good thing you married him.
Yeah.
Marry that one. Awesome. So now, what parting advice do you have for our viewers about marketing?
Well, I would say, number one, don't be shy, right? People are always worried that they're going to like, quote, annoy people. And I'm like, no, like for me, it's more that I want someone to stay in front of me to make it easy for me. And then along with that, I would say to stay organized. So that way, when you are, kind of nudging people or following up with people or putting yourself out there to people, you're doing it in a way that is, providing value and following up and feeling very specific, as opposed, to just kind of ringing people up out of the blue.
That's great. That is really great. Where could people reach you, Dr. Chloe?
Sure. Well, if they go to nervousenergybook.com, then they'll certainly be able to check out my new book, Nervous Energy. Also, I know you're streaming live on YouTube, so they can go to drchloe.tv. That's drchloe.tv. I'm also all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. So if you DM me on social media or send me any kind of contact message through my website, and if you mention Chala, I'll have a special gift for you.
Ooh, I love it. Thank you so much for being my guest, Dr. Chloe.
Thanks, Chala. My pleasure.